Well, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to show you how to build a little simple one. Well, it's not quite super simple because we're going to marry a cane and copper foil together. But it's going to be another solar light. This is it right here. I just drew it out real quick. If you want to try this one here, I'll give you the dimensions real quick. Across the top, it's going to be 4 3/8 inch. Across the bottom, it's going to be 6 3/8. From here to the header glass is 6 inches, and the header glass is 1 1/4 inches. So that gives you the dimensions out. How this one's going to differ from some of the other ones is that we're just going to use a single solar panel or solar light. There's here again the stake off or the top off the stakes that you put in the garden. So they work nicely. You pull the white tab to activate them. And what we're going to do, we're going to put some iridescent glass down here, some down here, some down here. We have an opaque glass across the top. And then in this open area here, these two open areas here, we're going to take some artificial, here it is here, I've copper foiled it already. This is artificial sea glass. And I say artificial because when you buy this, it's if you take a look at it real close, it's either been tumbled in a tumbler with some abrasive adhesion, or it's been sandblasted. Unfortunately, I even did find one that has sprayed with some kind of substance, and I went to, after I ground my edges, I wanted to use some lacquer thinner to take and wipe off the edges so that my copper foil would stick real well. It actually took the image or the color right out of the glass, and underneath the color was some clear glass. So if you're going to try this and you need to purchase some of this, you're going to have to be careful that you make sure you buy actually colored glass underneath whatever the color of it is. So anyway, that's just to give you a little rundown. These pieces in here are going to put in here at random. There's even going to be some open spots left. So for all practical purpose, we'll call this a perforated solar lantern. And so we're going to get ready to go from there. So since we're going to marry this together with the lead, we're going to run the lead down here, across here, one across here, and across the bottom. And then we're going to copper foil everything else in the middle here. And so when we get to after we get the lead, after we get our form made and we get the lead laid down here, I'll show you what we're going to do in the middle before we start to put our major pieces in here. Because you'll want to take and raise up a little bit, because if you remember, the edge of our cane, this is it right here. This is the one that goes around the outside edge. This is the U cane. This distance right here, if you don't put something in here to come up and kind of try to equalize this distance, when you put your copper foil in there, it'll try to be down low and you'll get a funny little lip right here. So we don't want to do that. So I'll show you why we're going to do that. So anyway, we're going to get ready. We'll go off camera and we'll get set up here, and we'll put our form in here just like we've done on the other ones. And then we'll come back, and after we get our form made, we'll go off camera and we'll cut some pieces of glass, and then we'll show you how we're going to put this together. So we'll be back in a second. All right, we're back. So we're ready to go. I got my form pieces made. Here again, they're the little ones that we've used before. They're made out of a 3/4 inch pine. They're a 1/4 inch wide. I just set the gate on my table saw and just ripped these through, so they come out nice and uniform, and they work very well for you. So anyway, we're going to get our square here again using my carpenter square, and we're going to set this right in here up against the backstop on my work table, and we're going to put our header in here. And I'm just going to set it right about there. You notice it's got a notch cut in here. This will be where our hanger goes. So if you watch any of my other videos, you'll see how we do that. And we're just going to take our little wire brads, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to tack this down to our work table. So we'll get that put down where we want to put it. And we'll put one more right in the middle here. Okay, so unlike some of the other videos where we made them square, this one here, we're just going to have to put this in by ourselves. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it in here. We're going to bring it right up against our line right here. Put it over against our line here. And we're going to go ahead and we'll tack it down. come out to the end here and put one up here so hold it for us. And we'll stick one more right here in the middle. So then we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing. Come right up to our line. Try to get it as close as possible. Don't get into it, so you want to keep them the right size. And we'll get this tacked down. So now I'm going to do one more thing. You can do this if you want to, you don't have to. But down the side here, I'm going to move this over here. Down the side here, I'm going to run another piece of my form wood right here. But I'm going to run it so that it's straight up and down. And the reason I'm going to do that, I'll show you in a second here. You want to pinch that. Why we're going to do that. This one doesn't have to be tacked down real tight because we're just going to use it to make sure things are straight. Yeah, I guess we'll put one more in the middle here. Maybe. Since this is on an angle here, if I want to check to make sure this is straight and this is straight, I have no way to do that. So by putting this strip here down, I can take my T-square, this is one that we've used on all the projects, and I can run it in here and make it go up and down straight to make sure that we're straight. Because as we said on the other videos, if you've watched any of the other ones, it's important that you make these all exactly straight and all exactly the same, because when we go to put them together, if one of them is bigger or one of them is smaller than the others, they're not going to line up real well. So that creates a problem. So we got our form built now. We got our straight edge put in here so we can check it for straightness. And what we're going to do now, we're going to go offline. We're going to cut U-came to go around the edge here. We'll cut 3 header pieces. We're going to cut 6 down pieces because we're going to make 3 of these panels. And we'll cut 3 for the bottom. And when we come back, we'll have a whole bunch of things going. We'll cut some glass down here. This one here is going to be about a ½ inch wide, and these will fill in here, and we'll cut our header. So we'll come back, we'll have a whole bunch of stuff taken care of, and we'll go from there. All right, well, we're back. We've got everybody cut up now. We have all our lead. Here's our header pieces right here. You notice we've got them cut on almost a 45. We have a notch in them here for our hanger. Here's our down pieces for to come down through here. Over here we have an H-came that's going to go across the top here. And then here at the back we have our U-came that are going to close this all off. We've got our side glass cut, we've got our header cut, and we've got our center pieces cut. So anyway, what we're going to do now, first of all, we're going to put our header in here with our hanger. And if you watch any of my other videos, you'll see how we do this. We're going to do it one more time so everybody can take a look in case you just happen to be turning this video on and haven't seen the other ones. We're taking, their hangers are made out of a 3/32 cotter pin. They're 1.5 inches long. This is a steel cotter pin. It's zinc plated. And I've said before, if you're going to try this hanger idea, don't buy stainless steel ones because you'll have a heck of a time trying to bend them. So in order to make this hanger work, I'll show you what we're going to do here. We're just going to take a pair of long nose pliers. We're going to set it right in the loop. We're going to hold it here, and I have a little piece of brass tubing. This brass tubing has a 3/32 hole across the middle of it. I just slide it on the longest leg here, pull it up, and make a 90-degree angle. That's a little bit past 90 degree. There you go. We'll do all 3 of them here so everybody gets a good idea of what we're doing here. This works real nice. It's a hidden hanger because it goes underneath the cane, so you don't see this. Only thing you're going to see is the loop coming through the top. And something I dreamed up when I was in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, where we lived for a number of years. A lot of wind out there. So I was afraid just a ring soldered on the outside would probably come off and we'd have a piece of broken glass on us. So this is how the hanger works. There's one other thing you need to do here, because the down leg here, this leg here, is 1.5 inches long, but our header in here is only 1.25 inches. And if you watch the other videos, you'll see this is our header glass here. You'll see right here, I've cut this back. So what's going to happen here is that this header is going to go in here, and this little leg's going to fit in here. And since this one here does have the angle here, you can see that that doesn't work very well right there. So this is going to have to be bent just a little bit more up, because we want that to go straight down like that. Just like that. But this hanging over the edge here, that won't work for us, because the next piece of glass that comes in behind here will be interrupted by that. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our long nose pliers with the side cutter on here. I'm just going to push it in here, and I'm going to cut those long down legs off about 1/4 inch. So we'll do it just like that. So that gives us our 3 hangers. So the way this goes together, I'm going to take our header piece with the angles cut on it and our V groove cut in here. We're going to take our hanger right here. Make sure I get the right one that we've been out. Let's just check it, make sure I got the right one. That's the one we want. So you take your U-came, this goes inside the U-came, just like that. You take your down piece of lead, here again U-came, and you set it right inside here like that. And then we'll take a pin, or stick pins, we'll come down here and we'll pin it. Now we're going to come over here on the other side, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to run the other down leg here. And we'll take and we'll pin it. We'll move this pin back right against the back here. Just like that. Okay, so now our header glass has been cut back. The reason for that is if you don't do that and you put it on top of here, that'll make this bigger than it is down at this end. And when you start to build this, it'll be crooked. And as you start to build it crooked, it gets worse as you go down the end. So we don't want to do that. So all we're going to do now, we're going to take this and we're going to bring it down here. We're going to insert it into our U-came. We're going to come all the way down, and we're going to set it right in there, just like that. We're going to take a piece of H-came. We're going to set it in here, just like that. And then we're going to take and we'll pin that, so we'll get that together. So now, like on all the other ones here, I'm going to put a piece of H-came across here, just the crown part of it. And we'll show you how to do that when we get further along on the project. So now, these pieces here, and this one right here, they're going to be copper foiled. So, but I'll show you what this is what it's going to look like. Here's the ones that we haven't been copper foiled yet. So they're going to sit in here like this. Like that. And then this one here is going to sit right here in the middle. So I'll go offline and copper foil these real quick. And then when we come back, we're going to put a piece across the bottom there. And then we're going to probably do something that's going to seem a little bit odd, but we're going to tack solder these so they don't move, because we're going to stack these pieces, which are all odd shapes, in here at random. And if we don't tack this down somehow, we don't want this to start to move over like this because we pushed something in here. So we'll come back and after I get it copper foiled, and we'll go ahead and we'll put the bottom on it, we'll tack solder. Now you can do this because we're using copper foil. If you were doing all leaded glass, you couldn't put the bottom on it because you need some way to get the glass in here. But since we'll start down here at the bottom, we'll fill in, and we'll start at the top and fill in. And then we'll just put in here somewhere in random. So should be an interesting project. So we'll go from there. So we'll be off a minute. We'll go get some copper foil, and we're going to use a 30-second copper foil to do this. And we'll get some foiled up, and then we'll come back and we're going to show you how to do this. All right, we're back. So we got everybody copper foiled up now. So we got our 2 down pieces and our center piece here. But before we go much further, I want to backtrack just a little bit. And to cut these pieces, this one and this one, I did make some small patterns. Okay, they're made just out of chipboard or out of a light piece of cardboard. You notice I marked them this upside right hand, upside left hand. The reason for that is when you cut the glass, you turn it over because you're going to cut it on the smooth side. And if you don't turn your pattern over, you'll end up with a whole bunch of them going all the same way. And what will happen when you go to put this one in here on the right hand side, and it's a left hand one, you'll have the angle here going out the wrong way. So keep that in mind. So these are just put in here, and they're cut to match our drawing. Also on the top here, I also made one just to cut this angle right here. That's not as critical, although I show an upside here, because even if you turn this over, it's exactly the same because of the same cut right here. So I wanted to let you know how we made those. But before we go ahead and start to put the glass in here for our project, our ones that have been foiled, remember we talked about this. Our U-came has this lip on it right here. And if we just lay the glass in here, it'll go from that lip down against our board that we're building on. And that'll give you a kind of a saggy look in the middle. We don't want to do that. We want to keep it flat. So what we're going to do, we cut a little piece of chipboard here. It's going to go right here, which will equal about the same amount. And what we're going to do with that, that's going to be inserted right in here. And we're just going to center it up in here. Just going to take a regular little glue stick here, turn it over, put some glue on here just to keep it from moving around. And we're just going to take and we're going to glue it down here. If you've watched the other videos that I did, the ones with the flowers on them with the copper foil, you see that we did the same thing. So this will give you an idea how this works. Okay, we're going to insert this just like this. Now I'm going to put this pin right up against this. Even though it's against the glass, the copper foil will keep it from getting chipped. So we're going to put that right here, and we're going to do that right here. And this one right here, it's going to go in here like this. And I'm going to take my little plastic square here. I'm going to set it in here, and I'm going to make sure that it's square right where I want it here. So I'm going to hold it with my finger right here, and I'm going to take it, I'm going to measure it here. That's 1 5/8 inches, 1 5/8 inches. So I'm going to take a pin here, put it right against it here, and right against it here. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do the same thing. 1 5/8 inches. It's a little over there. There we go. Now I said this is a little unconventional because normally you would put the project all together and then solder it. But we're going to put this bottom piece on here, and then we're going to tack solder it. And then from there, we can go ahead and we can put all our pieces in here, and then we'll go on from there. So we'll put this piece of U-came across the bottom. We'll get us a little piece of form material. That one's going to be a little bit too long. This one will work. Now we want to get our square back in here, and we want to come up, make sure it's straight, which it is. Okay, so we'll take and we'll pin this just like that. Okay, so now we're going to get my solder out, my flux. And I don't have to solder this really good. I'm just going to solder it down so that it doesn't move. Like I said, we're going to stack these pieces in here at random. And if you don't do that, you're going to have a whole lot of moving pieces right here, and you could get yourself in trouble. So the lead joints right here, where they come together, I'm going to hit them with a little stainless steel brush right here. Just like that. Then I'm going to come and put my flux on here. Put a little flux on right there, right here where my copper foil is at. You notice I'm not doing the whole thing. I'm just doing the ends of it here, just where it goes in here, just like that. Get my soldering iron out here. Check it on a piece of lead. Make sure that it hasn't got a spiked heat on it. It's fine. We're going to take it, we're going to tin this right here, just a little bit. Going to come right here. We're going to tack solder this on. Okay, we're going to come up here and just tack solder it right here. Gotta do it on an angle there so you can get to it. This one here didn't want it quite solder right there, so we'll push some in there. There we go. Come back and do this one here just a little bit again. Okay, so we've got everybody tacked up. Right here, a little piece of copper foil is overlapping in over the H cam right here. So what we'll do is take an X-Acto knife and we'll cut that out of there because I don't want that showing. You know, it's not here and here, it's all right. It won't show down the sides or across here because this is wider than the H cam. Okay, so we got those tacks soldered. We'll take this all out. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but when I put these side pieces of glass in here, they just slid right in flat because we put that other little piece on there. So from there, I'll go offline and I'm going to just take our glass here and I'm just going to put these in here in all kinds of weird, random pieces, kind of like this. And we'll just move them around as we move on. I'm not going to do any of this going to be long, wide like this. I'll move that around so it goes away from that. We'll go ahead and fill this in all at random with all these different colors. Basically have the sea glass, most of it that I've ever found. There's some yellow or goldish ones. There's light green ones, the aqua blue, a little bit of dark blue, and every once in a while you'll find some that are just a little purple. So they've been all copper foiled, so we may need some of them. They do vary in thicknesses, so we're going to have an uneven front on this. Some of them are as thick as a 1/4 inch. This blue one here, right here, is pretty thick. Some of this glass here, this one here, see how thick it is? So that's just the way it's going to be. We'll when we solder it with the copper foil, we'll take care of it. Some of this glass I've actually made because I have a sandblasting capability. So I've just taken some standard colored glass and just sandblasted it to create the look of sea glass. So anyway, this should be an interesting project. It's not going to be super bright as far as the colors go, but when we light it up, it should be very pretty. So we'll be back. We'll get this filled in here, and then we'll go ahead and we'll solder it all up, and we'll have one of our panels made. Okay, we're back. We got it all filled in here now, so I just put those in at random. I just kind of moved them around until they fit where they can touch each other. We'll take and solder this all up. So the soldering job is going to look a little interesting. These open edges here, we'll have to come around there and tin those a little bit. So they'll be covered up with solder. So now we're going to put our little spacer across here. This will just hold this all together right here. The leg of our cotter pin comes back underneath here for a hanger, so I like to stiffen this up a little bit. Plus, I don't like this bigger gap here without a break in it. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to just take a piece of H-came like this one right here. We're going to come in here with our dikes, and we're going to cut the heart out of the H-came, just like that. So now all we have is the crown part of it right here. And I'm going to set this on an angle right here. And that one's going to be just a little bit too long, but when you trim it real teeny, because you'd like it to go in here tight so that it makes it easier to solder. That's still a little bit too tight. Like I said in the other videos, if you happen to cut it too short, just put a couple dabs of white glue here, glue it down there to hold it just for a couple minutes until you can do it. There we go. Now it's still a little bit soft, but we'll just take and hold it a little bit when we go ahead and solder it. We'll just take our stainless steel brush here and brush it up a little bit. So I want to right in the center here. Make sure it's straight. So we'll take our flux right here. I'll just hold that right there. Take and flux it right there. All right. So I'm going to just take my soldering iron. This is the one we've been using. And I'm going to take and tin my iron just a little bit. I'm going to hold this with my hand, but remember, don't hold it too long because it gets really hot really quick. I'm just going to touch this right here, like that. Okay, so now we're going to sit down here. I'm going to finish up this top one here real quick. And I'll finish this one right here. Okay, so now we're going to take our flux. We're going to go all the way around here. You can see that these move a little bit because they're just pushed in here. After you flux them, we can go ahead and we can make some final adjustments because I want to kind of keep them all spaced away from each other. But they have to be touching somewhere every once in a while so that you can get a solder joint put in there. Like that one there, we want to keep it pushed over there. So this is what it's going to play around with and have to fool with as far as keeping them lined up and so forth. So like I said before, this will be an interesting one to solder up because it's going to have some crazy joints in it. It's also going to have some open areas here. And so we'll have to go around the edges and tin those a little bit. Come down here, get everybody. If you're afraid they're going to move around on you, just take and reposition them where you want them. And just take and we'll just take and tack solder them just a little bit here. Just what tack solder means, you're just going to put them on here, just a little bit of a little solder joint. It's not going to be your finished solder joint here. So we go through here and we'll just tack these up. Now when you're soldering the copper foil, it's a kind of a project where you just have to practice on it. You learn how to do it, and there's about 100 ways to do it. Find one that you like and just stick with it. Some people will take and drag their iron along to create an image. Others will take and kind of walk their solder along. Since we have all these crazy shapes, I'm probably just going to kind of dab this on here as we go along here. Okay. Come back over on this side here and we'll do the same thing over here. So anyway, you're getting the idea here how this is going to go together. We'll just continue to tack these little joints as they go in here. So that I don't bore you as we solder this, I'll just go offline here in a second, and we'll come back on after I get it soldered up. We'll show you what it's going to look like. So this ought to give us a really interesting effect, and like I say, just a kind of a little bit of a challenge here with all these different sizes. All right, we'll go offline now. I'll go ahead and finish soldering this up, and when we come back, we'll show you what it's going to look like. Okay, so we've got this one side cleaned up right here now. And I'm going to show you a little technique. It's kind of called a shaking. And because we have so many open gaps right here, you need to tin around these edges here. But it has a tendency to do this, where it takes and it plugs up where your corners are, and that doesn't look real good. So I'm going to show you how to get rid of that. You just take it on the back side, take your flux brush and flux this all up, just like that. Okay, then you turn it over and you take your iron, clean it off, and you take it and you go underneath here on the back side here, and you take and you let it heat up. Let me get it here where I want to get it. You take it here and you put it under on the back side where you want to go through here. See it go soft, and now you shake it and see it opens it up right there. That's what you want it to look like. You don't want it to be all plugged up. Here's another one right here. See here where it's all full. Now watch, and now shake it. See it open it up right here. So that's the look we're looking for. We don't want it to be all plugged up. So anyway, that's just a little trick there. You might want to keep that in the back of your mind if you're going to try this. Otherwise, it looks kind of globby, and that's not a really good look for us. So let it see it soften, and then just shake it down. We'll get one more here, and then we'll let you. Okay, as soon as it becomes liquid, just shake it down. So if you can see the difference here now compared to over here, here's one right here. We'll do this one here real quick here. See it come back. It almost looks like it. Well, basically what it's doing is liquefying the solder, and then you're shaking away the part that you don't want to be soldering. Like right here, this area right here, we don't want that like that. So you shake it up. So when you do this, be a little bit careful though, because you don't want to flick it onto your skin, so be careful. This does another thing too. It actually, by doing this like this, it actually solders the back side for you. All right, we'll quit right here. All right, so that gives you an idea what shaking looks like. And you can see how we cleaned this all up now compared to what it was. Gives you a little better look. It looks like we might have a little one right here. Let's see what this looks like right here. Looks like it might not be right where we want it here. There. No, I guess that one's going to be all right there. So anyway, that's going to clean it all up for us, and then from there we'll go ahead and wash it up, and we'll finish up the panel. So just to give you a little idea of how to clean up your soldering joints and to get it go on all the way around your copper foil. Okay. All right, well, we're back. We got it all cleaned up now. We did our little shaker style soldering on the back side. By doing that, it actually even solders the back side for you. So that's a good way to get these lines all cleaned up here. Like I said at the start of this video, most of this glass has been manufactured. Some of it I made by sandblasting. There is a few pieces in here that actually is real sea glass. They had a couple little chips in them, and so I thought that might just add a little character to our project, so I left them in. So we have about 0.5% of real sea glass in this project. The rest of it's all been manufactured either by tumbling in a tumbler or being sandblasted, but it gives you the same effect. So now we need to close up these ends right here. And we've done this. If you watch any of my other videos, you'll see how we're going to do this. We're going to come in here and we're going to cut this back about of 1/4 inch. We're going to trim it here, there, and we're going to cut this into a point. Then we're going to take it on the edge of our work table and we're going to bend it down. We're going to force it into that opening there. What that does is it closes that area up so when we get ready to solder it, we don't have the big gap that we would normally have if we just cut it off straight. It just helps speed up the process. You don't use as much solder, and it's a lot easier to do than to try to fill that big hole there. So cut it to the point, put it on the edge of your work table, push it down. And then like before, we need some way to hold this up. And if you watch the other videos that I've done, I have a drill vise here. My drill vise just sits in here like this. We're going to put the project in it. We're going to tighten this up just enough to hold it straight up and down because we don't want to break our glass for sure. So we're going to take this and we'll just take and flux it real quick. There and there. We're going to take our solder and we're just going to fill this in right here. Okay, now what I'm going to do, we could leave it like that if we wanted to. What I'm going to do, and I've done it on the other videos, take it offline. We're going to put it on some 80 grit sandpaper. We're going to smooth it all down, and on the edges here, we're going to chamfer or curl them over so they have a little bit of a rounded edge. But we have another thing we need to do here. Up here, we got a little gap here, and we want to solder in around our cotter pin here. So this one here, we'll just set this a little bit on an angle, just like that. Just tighten it up a little bit to hold it. We'll move this over just a little bit so you can see it. And we'll put our flux on here. Like that. We're just going to take our soldering iron. Put a little bit right there. And while I got this right here, here we'll move this some more. Get all these spacers in here so it stays pretty stable. Just going to take my soldering iron, going to tin it just a little bit, and I'm just going to set it in here right next to my cotter pin, and I'm just going to let it flow away. As soon as it flows away, I'll get away from it, just like that. That sucks down around that cotter pin and will really solder that area. Now we're going to turn it over, and we're just going to fill this in right here just to keep it finished off. Just like that. Okay, so I'll go offline real quick. I'm going to finish up these edges, like I said, on 80 grit sandpaper, and then we'll chamfer them with a. We're just going to use an emery board. It's a heavy duty one. Has a 100 grit in it, and Yeah, that'll give us a pretty nice looking job. We'll clean this all up. Then we're going to put our cleat on here. We'll have a cleat across here to hold our solar light in here, and we'll put a plate on the bottom because we're going to put a bottom in this too because we want to be able to get some reflective light back up from the light. So it's coming out pretty nice for us. So I'm pretty happy. Considering that this is made out of all kinds of just junk pieces of glass. Here's a real piece of sea glass right here. You can see here it's got a little bit of a chunk out of it right there. So if you ever walked the beaches and looked for sea glass, you'll know that it's pretty hard to find nowadays, but it's always kind of a fun thing to do. So anyway, we'll be back in a minute, and we'll go ahead and get these edges done, and then we'll get ready to put our cleat on and our bottom, and then we'll be done with one panel. Okay, we're back here. You can see what we did to the edges here. So we sanded those all down and we rounded them off a little bit. So now I'm going to take just a regular emery board here, and I'm just going to smooth those up just a little bit. They don't need to be dressed up too much. So I just go around those real quick like that. Just knock off any sharp edges so somebody doesn't get hooked on it. And this kind of just finishes up your panel. It makes it look a little nicer. You may have some other little tricks that you like to do yourself. Just go ahead and put it into your project as you go along. All right, that looks good. So we got two more things to do to this panel. Then we'll wash it all up and we'll let you really take a look at it and see how it came out. Okay, on the back side here, we're going to have to put a little cleat or a little shelf here. It's going to put it right in here. It's going to just be made out of a little piece of H-came. It's going to be soldered right on top of this one here. And that'll create a shelf so we can hold our solar light in here. And then down at the bottom here, we're going to put a little tab. This will hold the bottom in. The bottom is going to be made out of a piece of opaque white glass. This is made out of galvanized tin. It's very thin. It's about an inch and an eighth or inch and a quarter long by a little over 9/16 high. So we'll solder that on the bottom, and then the project, or one panel of the project, to be done. So let me show you how we're going to do this. We're going to take, in my case, I have a pair of medical clamps right here. They lock in right here on each other. That helps hold it. If you don't have those, if you got an alligator clip like they use in electronics, that works. Or you can use a pair of long nose pliers, whatever works to hold this. And what we're going to do with it, we're going to take it, we're going to set it in here. And we're just going to eyeball this. It doesn't have to be perfect. And we're going to put this clamp right here in the middle, like that. So it's holding it. And then we're going to take and we're going to flux this top of this one. And we're going to flux this one. Then we're going to take our soldering iron, clean the tip off. And we're going to take it and we're just going to put a little tin of solder like that. And I'm going to try to stay out of it if I can. Put this in here right here. And we're going to take the soldering iron that has that little bubble of solder on it, and we're going to stick it right between the two pieces of H-came and just let it flow off. And when it flows off, it'll solder those two together. And we can remove our clamp. Then we're going to come back in here and we'll go right here with the whole thing and we'll just solder this up solid. So that'll hold our tray for our solar light. So that'll work good. So we'll just take and wipe that off just a little bit. Okay. So that's what that looks like, all soldered down right here. I usually take this, because these edges are kind of sharp, I usually take this and just cut it on an angle to kind of smooth it up a little bit. You don't have to do this because this is going to be underneath a plate anyway. So, but I like to do it just so you don't accidentally get hooked on it while you're doing that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this plate on the bottom here, and this is a little bit tricky. I'm going to move it over here on the side of our project. Push my soldering iron out of the way. And we're going to take our little piece right here. First thing I'm going to do, because this is galvanized, sometimes the solder doesn't like to adhere to that. So I'm going to take my emery board on the corner of my work table here. I'm going to take it and I'm going to burnish this or rough it up. So now it looks like this. It's got a little shiny spot on it. I'm going to set this in here. I'm going to just do it by eye. I'm going to put it right in the middle here, as close as I can. Okay, but before I solder it, remember we're using a rounded U-came here. So if I solder it right there, this sharp edge will be sticking down below. And we don't want to do that because somebody could get hooked on it. So take your marking pen, come in here, draw a line on it right here. Then take and raise it up about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and then at the end here, take just a piece of form wood, stick it in here, put a couple pins in it to hold it in tight, like that. Again, take your flux, flux it up, take your iron, try to keep your tip nice and clean, you get a better solder job. Okay, so I'm going to just take and tin it. I'm going to stick it right in here, and then I'm going to give it a little dose of solder and just going to move it right along here. Just like that. Let that harden. Let it cool down just a little bit. And this is what you're looking for on the bottom here. See how this is pushed back behind here? Normally, it would be hanging out, and you don't want to do that. So by raising it up, you get it to push back. Okay, so now I'm going to go offline real quick. I'm going to take and wash this down in soap and water. I just use 2 or 3 drops of Dove dishwashing soap in a bucket of water, and it cleans this up really nice. And then when we come back, we'll show it to you, and then we'll go ahead and go offline and make 2 more that'll be the outside perimeter, and this one down the middle is going to be all the same on them, the same header and all of them. But what goes in the middle here is just whatever we figure out will fit in there. So we'll go from there. All right, we'll be back in a minute. All right, we're back. We got our panel all done now. So here's what it looks like. So real happy with it. Both sides are all soldered now. By doing that shaking method where we clean up the gaps in here, it actually almost solders that backside for you, because you're just tinning the edges of your foil because they don't come together, so you don't really have a real bead. So this is how the project's going to look. So we're going to make 2 more, and from there we're going to go ahead and put them together, and then we'll light it up. We'll take a look at it. All right, so we'll be back in a little while. All right, we're back. We've got our 3 panels now made with our imitation sea glass in them. So now we're going to put this together, and we're going to use the same jig that I've used before. This is on a 60-degree angle. It has 2 V's in it here. It has some backstops on it here, so we'll put our panels right up against it. And they sit in here on a V, and that gives us our angle for our solar lantern. So we're going to take 1 panel. We'll set it in here like this. This panel here will go in here like this. And you want to take some time, make sure you got them lined up. We're going to solder right down the middle here. So you want to make sure that they make a nice V. You don't want any light leaks through there. Once you get them lined up where you want them, just like that, and they're up against your backstop right here, we're just going to take our flux. We're going to take and we're going to flux down here. And we're going to go ahead and get our soldering iron out, and we'll go ahead and we'll put some solder joints in there, and we'll be ready to go. So I'm going to just take my solder here. My spool is almost out, so I'm just going to hold it by the spool. Normally I cut off some pieces, so I'm just going to hold it here. I'm going to wipe the tip down on my iron. I like to keep it nice and clean. I'm going to just tin it just a little bit. I'm going to set my solder right here. I'm going to put a bead of solder there. One right there, and down at the end, I'm just going to put some on my iron. I'm going to take my hand with my glove on it right here. I'm going to set it right in here. I'm just holding that shut in case it starts to spread on, because we don't want the solder to bleed through there. And then, like we've done in the other videos, if you've watched those, up right at the top here, I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to solder this shut. What I mean by soldering shut, I'm just going to fill this up, because this particular area right here is the only thing that people really see if they look inside here. Because we're going to have on our little cleats here, we're going to have a shelf that holds our light, and of course we're going to have our bottom there. Okay, so we got two panels together. Here's what you want them to look like right here, with no bleed through here, okay? Because if you get bleed through, you're going to have a problem when you get ready to put it together. It's not going to look real good. So you can hold it up here and also look here. I see right here, right here, I see it has just a little bit of a crack in there where the came is not quite together. I'll show you a little trick with that. You may remember these. I made these out of paper clips. I just took and bent the edges over them. They clip into the edges of the U-came, and they squeeze that together. So now that area is gone. So what I'll do is I'll just put this back in here just at random, and we'll solder that up. If you don't do that, if you have cracks in it, when you light it up at night, the light will come through the cracks, and this kind of doesn't look quite as nice. So we'll just take and hold it there and solder it shut. So you can check all these little things. As you play with these for a while, you'll start finding things that you like to do to them yourself, so to keep them looking really nice. So anyway, so we can take our clamp off now, and we fill that up so we don't have any, so I can look through it here. I don't see any light coming through anywhere. If you get it all soldered and you've got a couple areas that have some light in it, there's a product out that's made by a company called Permatex. It's called liquid metal. It's a gray looking metal. You can take and put that on like the end of a little stick of toothpick or something, and you can set it down on the edge here and put it on the inside here and block those up if you have little cracks that you can't get closed up. It makes the job look real nice. So anyway, there's two of our panels. So the third one now is the one that we're going to put this back in here like this. And the third one is the one that we're going to bring, and it goes down inside here like this. And you can see this is why we talked about using the form. This is why you want to use form. See how nice this lines up here already? If you free build these and they get bigger or smaller, when you go to do this, you're going to have a problem getting them to line up. So anyway, I'm going to go offline here, and I'll get my lovely assistant to come out and hold the camera, and we'll move it down here, and we'll show you how we're going to solder this inside here, because it's a little tricky. And because this one of the shape of it, because it's got a small opening in the top here and a big opening down in the bottom here because it flares out, we don't have much room to work in down here, but we'll get her to come out and hold the camera and take some quick videos of getting inside here. And then from there, we'll go ahead and solder the rest of it up. I think we're going to Pantene this one here. I think that would look nice, especially we have all these little fine lines going through here. Give it some definition, and it may make this glass kind of pop out. Because this glass has been sandblasted or it's been tumbled, it has no gloss to it. So when we Pantene it, we won't have to wax it or anything, because there's nothing really to shine up on it. So we'll just Pantene it, wash it down really good, and we'll be done with it. So we'll come back in a minute and we'll show you how to solder up the inside to finish it up. All right, well, I got my wife out here now to give me a hand here. So we've got it in our jig here. This is the area we're going to solder right down in here. As I said before, because this is a small opening here, we don't have a lot of room to work with. So I'll try to keep my hands out of there if I can. So we're going to just take our flux. I'm going to come in here and we're going to flux this up. I'll go out to the back side here and flux it up back here. And then what we're going to do, we're going to take our solder and we're going to roll it out, probably about 10-12 inches. Take and wipe our iron down here again. And then we're going to come in from the back side here. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to make a spot solder right here. Just like that. Then we're going to come down to the end here. And we're going to put one more right in here in the middle. And then we're going to come all the way to the end. Here again, I'm using my glove. Going to put some solder on the end of my iron. And I'm going to go right down to the end here, and I'm going to put one in here to solder that down. Okay, now we got that one done. So now we need to rotate it one more time. So we're going to rotate it around. Here again, this is what we're looking for. Nice and clean down here. Has no bleed through. So we're going to take this one here and we're going to put it in here. We're going to push it down. We want to make it push it down tight here. Don't get too carried away if you made one like this, because this area through here is fairly it's sturdy, but you could push through it if you really put a lot of pressure on it. So be careful with that. Okay, so get them lined up. Make sure they're lined up right where you want them. Here again, we'll flex this down. Come across here. We're going to reach through here again. We'll put us a little solder bead right here. Just like that. We'll put one right in the middle here. Then I'm going to put tin my iron again. Then I'm going to take my fingers with my glove on it and put it right here on the end. And solder the end shut. Okay, we didn't do this on the other one. I should have done it while I was headed over here, but we can turn it around. We're gonna fill this back in here. Like I said on the other videos too, this is your choice to do this if you want to. You don't have to do this. So let's take and rotate that back and find the one that we didn't do, this one here. Okay, there we go. So we've got it all together now. So this is going to be our project. Move that out of the way. Get over here and you can take a look at it here. This ought to be really pretty when it gets lit up at night. So anyway, we'll go offline and we're going to make a top for it for our solar light, which is the top of our stake here, which will fit in the top here. See, I made this nice and tight so it doesn't jiggle around. And I'm going to cut, for the bottom here, I'm going to cut a piece of white opaque glass so we'll get a reflection or a bounce back. The solar lights are single source. They point right straight down. So when they hit the bottom, they reflect back. It'll illuminate the whole thing evenly. So anyway, it's been a fun project to do. I hope you give it a try. I'll be back in a minute and we're going to show you how to Pantene it real quick. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. So we'll just show you the real basics of it. If you Pantene things before, you've got your own technique for it. I'll show you kind of how we're going to do it real quick. And then we'll come back and we'll put the top in it. We'll put the bottom in it. We'll put a chain on it. And like we've done with the other ones, we'll take it into our laundry room and turn the light off. And that tells the photo cell that it's dark and it'll come on automatically. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, after getting it all soldered up and everything, we got it all washed up now. So it's nice and clean. So we're going to Pantene this, and you probably have watched some of my other videos how we do this. There's a whole bunch of ways to do it. This happens to work good for me, so I just go ahead and stay with this one. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our Scotch-Brite pad. Some people use steel wool, some people use some kind of an eraser, several different ways. And I'm just going to go over this real lightly. I'm going to shine up all the lead in our solder joints, knock off any oxidation, any fingerprints, any oil that you may have on your skin. So we're just going to go over this real quick. Not going to worry about the inside of this. We're just going to do the outside. Come down the channel here so you get a nice Pantene down there. So the better job you do here, the nicer your Pantene looks. If you don't do this, your Pantene is going to come out kind of blotchy looking. because there'll be some areas where it doesn't want to adhere just quite as well. And like I've said before in the other videos, if you once you put the Pantene on, you don't need to keep going over and over and over. It's going to, once it gets on, it makes its reaction. You're pretty much done with it. So then what I like to do, as soon as we get this Pantene, I let it sit for a little while, maybe 20 minutes or so, and then I'm going to wash it off, and I wash it off in the coldest water I can get, okay? And it seems to help set it, and it seems to help to make it stay as black as possible, because it's actually, when you first look at it, it's actually kind of a flat black, or kind of a gunmetal gray. So that's the way that works. Okay. All right, so that's good enough for that. We'll go up here on the top here. We'll just knock these down just a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to get my little fixture again so I can sit this up straight. And I'm going to take and put it right here. And I'm going to get a couple paper towels so I don't get my Pantene all over my fixture. The only reason I'm going to do this is so I can hold it up flat like this, so I have some way to hold it. So I'm going to use a, here's the product I'm using. It's black Pantenes for solder and lead. I put it in a little spray bottle just like this. And so I just take and like spray it right on the area. You notice I'm wearing gloves. They recommend you wear gloves. It's a little toxic, so you want to be sure that you don't get it all over your skin. So then we're just going to take and we're going to spray this. Take and wet it down, come down in the slots here on the grooves. I kind of get it wet, pretty wet, not super, didn't have to be running off of it. Then I have a brush, and this brush is dedicated nothing but Pantening. And I'm just going to go over this real lightly. I'm going to work this Pantene into the project. Just like this. I think with the iridescent glass, and these are being frosted, the black Pantene divider is going to make this pop pretty good when it's hanging out and when it lights up. So that's one of the reasons why I thought we may want to Pantene this one here. So then we're just going to take it, we're going to rotate it. Get our bottle out here again. Don't squirt yourself with it. Like I said, there's a lot of ways to do this. If you look on YouTube, you'll see all kinds of people doing it, all kinds of different ways. My suggestion is to, look at a few of those, try a few of them, find one that you like, and then just stay with it. I don't know if there's really a right way to do it or a wrong way to do it. It's just, I'm a big believer in do whatever works best for you. Had a couple of people stop by and ask me how I came up with all these designs. I'll show you how I did that, because they're not done with a glass cutter. They're done with a tool called a nipper. It has a couple cutting discs together. And I've actually seen people build a whole window using just a nipper, no glass cutter whatsoever. So I'll show you what that looks like. If you don't have one, they're not expensive. You can get them almost any store, and it's a nice addition to your glass toolkit when you're making projects. If you want to do flowers or something like that, it's nice. You can take and just use your nipper and cut the petals out for your flowers. If you're doing a project and you got to say you want to make a lot of circles in it, you can draw your circles out on the glass and just use your nippers and go around the outside edge and then put it on a grinder and grind them nice and flat for you. So anyway, this is what it's going to take to patine this. And we're going to go offline here in a minute, off camera, and we're just going to let this sit for a while. And then what we're going to do, we'll come back and we're going to wash it up with, like I said before, with as cold of water as we can find. Just going to go over these a little bit here. And then what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and we'll finish it up with our bottom, our top. We'll put our chain on it and we'll be done with it. All right, we're back. We got everybody all cleaned up. We're just about ready to finish up our video on our sea glass solar lantern. But before we do that, I told you we're cutting these little pieces out of a piece of sandblasted glass to make them look like sea glass. And the way we're doing that, we're using a tool called a nipper. Here's what it looks like. It has a couple cutting wheels right here. And they don't really come together, but they get close and they pinch the glass and they move it and they punch it away. So to use this, for instance, if we wanted to cut this funny little thing right here, you just turn it around and you take and you put your nippers right here, and you take and you cut, just nip it here. And you get real close. You can get real close to the lines here. And you just nip it along here. If you don't wear glasses, you might want to put safety glasses on because the little chunks kind of fly around. But you just move around. This one's a little harder to cut here. You might have to do several little pieces to get that one out of there. That one might break it. We'll try it here. Yep, it did. But anyway, to do it, I don't even draw on them. I just start to move. Just take and cut some chunks out of them, move them around like this. And then what I do is I put them on my grinder and I clean them all up. And I just usually make a whole bunch of them. And then it's kind of like a puzzle. You kind of move them around and find out how to put them into your project. And so they just go in at random. And there's no pattern, there's no rhyme or reason for them. So it's a fun project to try, and these are real handy. Like I said before, I've seen people actually build almost a complete window using these, and they just, in most cases, they're doing leaded glass and they're using a pretty good size cane, thicker than we're using. It's probably maybe even 3/8 of an inch, so it's got a pretty good channel in it. So if you're not right up against the line when they stick them in there, after they put the glazing compound or the cement in them, you never see it. So that's the way those work. So anyway, let's go on. Let me pick up all these little pieces right here, and we'll go ahead and we'll bring in our project here. So here it is. So we've got it all cleaned up now. Everything looks really, really nice. We like the Pantene on it. Makes it really snap. So we'll go ahead and put the bottom in it right now. And so the bottom here, I pre-cut this. This is just on a piece of white glass. It's opaque, so that'll give us a reflective bottom. And we're going to put that in with a silicone seal. This is called an E6000. It's just a silicone glue. We're just going to put a tab right here, one right here, and one right here. Now this is cut just a little smaller than the actual outside edges, so that we'll have a little gap around there. So when it does rain, we can go ahead and let the water go through it. It just drops in place like that. You can reach in here and move it around until you get it centered where you want it. I'm going to set it on some little blocks of wood that we use, our little form pieces, and that'll keep the glued area up off of our work table here, so we don't have, we'll get over here in the middle, up off our work area, so we don't have a situation where it gets glued down. You can take a piece of your form wood if you want to, and just take it like this, and you can push this down against the your tab that you did. That'll help set it against there. Okay, so that's our bottom. Now for our top piece here, this is made out of that cutting board that I've shown you before. This is the one for the quilters, and it's kind of a layered plastic piece of material, and it works nice. I just spray paint it with a flat black on it. Now this is kind of interesting because if you measure right across the top edge here, because this is starting to slant away, this is actually a little bit bigger than that. So you may have to just bend it just a little bit to get it to go down in here. And then when you push it in, you can just push it by here, and then it goes right down in, and it sits right there. And then our solder light will sit on top, just like that. So from there, we'll go ahead and put a chain on it, and then we're going to go into the laundry room, and we'll light it up, and you'll get a chance to see what it's going to look like. So we'll be back in a minute when we get this set up. All right, here's our sea glass solder light now. We got it all done. We got it hung in the laundry room, and so we're going to turn the light out right now, and we'll show you what it looks like when it's lit up. There you go. So anyway, this is made out of the sea glass. Some of it actually is real. Most of it has been manufactured. Like I said before, I bought some of it at a store, and most of it I've taken and made myself. If you have sandblasting capabilities, you can just take a piece of regular art glass and go ahead and sandblast it, knock the shine off of it, and it creates the effect of being a sea glass. So I hope you'll follow along with this project and enjoy it, and we'll see you on the next video.